Hello and welcome to What Would Jesus Tech? My name is Andrew Noble, and at my church, I don't think anybody brings a video camera in and starts recording all of the different things that happen, except that might be the case if they were wearing a camera on their glasses, which they might. We are going to talk today about what churches need to know about smart glasses, and we've invited an author of a very popular article. It's trending on the Gospel Coalition days after
it's done very well.
It's done well.
It's done very
well.
The
stats. You know the stats.
I know the stats. It's done very well.
So congratulations.
I'm very thankful. Very thankful.
The thing is about pieces like this is it's a need that people have maybe scratched an itch here and there, but they haven't comprehensively thought through how should a church respond to the reality that there's now the technology of a video camera being strapped to glasses very inconspicuously. Right. So let's dive in. I'm also with our other co-host, Joel Jacob, and
who actually has a pair of these glasses, and they're awesome. Like, even though I wrote an article about them, like, the glasses themselves freaking rock.
Yeah, we were in person and we tested it out, and it was great.
Like, it was really cool. Like, I was like, this is awesome. Which then belies part of the problem is like, oh, these are actually kind of sick.
Yeah. Here. Joel put them on when we were out for dinner, and he just spoke the words for them to turn on. And then all of a sudden this red light came on. And if you're watching the YouTube now, you can see these glasses. They look like normal glasses. They don't look like a massive video camera strapped to a head. It's thick frame glasses are still a thing right now. So can you just talk a little bit about the technology first? Because I think some of the question is whether or not it's obvious if someone's recording or not.
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the piece, I tried to draw a parallel to what happened with smartwatches about this time 10 years ago and what is about to happen with smart glasses and the trajectory that's about to go on as a new category of consumer tech. Like 10 years ago, 10 years ago, Apple Watches were like this fringe revolutionary form of consumer tech. It was a new thing that solved this kind of like weird fringe problem. Like, smartwatches have been around for a long time, but they were just weird and impractical and kind of rare.
Shout out to the Pebble. The Pebble.
Shout out to the Pebble.
15 years ago.
Shout out to the Pebble.
But that was what I think it was a great illustration in your piece, because it's true that the Pebble was for nerds. Just the Pebble was for nerds. Same way that smart glasses are for nerds right now.
I can't deny that. But smartwatches, yeah. Joel, we're all nerds here. It's a safe space.
Yeah.
But smartwatches, now we don't bat an eye at smartwatches, and there are more types and varieties and manufacturers of smartwatches than we can wrap our minds around. It's a massive industry. It's a massive product line. But it started when one of these, an Apple Watch, really took off in a way that everything else hadn't up to at that point. And smart glasses are on a similar trajectory. It hasn't happened yet, but Meta's Ray-Ban smart glasses are seeing the kind of success that they would need to see in order for them to see a level of success like the Apple Watch did for smartwatches. And they're not the only player in this space. There are other options in this space, but the Meta Ray-Bans are far and away by a million miles the most successful. Meta cannot keep up with the demand for them. They are quietly exploding, and they're succeeding where all of the attention around, virtual reality and the metaverse and things like the Apple Vision Pro have just completely fallen flat, because it's an upgrade to something that people already have and are already wearing, kind of like smartwatches were to watches. It's not wearing a computer on your face in public. It's taking the glasses you may already wear and giving them functionality that you didn't realize they could have. And once you try it, it's kind of nice.
Yeah, it's wild, because I remember thinking that smartwatches weren't going to be that much of a thing, and so I think for all of us tech skeptics who are slow adopters, it is something to be wary of. No, this actually will be a thing as the technology gets better. So enter this technology into a church. If a pastor's listening to this, they should be thinking about what?
If a pastor is listening to this, and if they haven't read the article, we'll have it in the show notes. They can read it. The number one thing that I want pastors to take away from that article is to just have a plan. You may come down on this differently from the church down the street, and that's fine. I set a couple of boundaries in there that I think are prudent for every church to do, but the most important thing is just for your church to be aware of these and to have a plan for them. You don't want you don't want to wait until something happens to then be on the back foot after the fact about what you wish you could have done differently if somebody snuck these in, counting on the fact that most people will have no clue what's going on, and then using that to sin against your people or hurt your people in some way, especially in kids ministries and especially in areas of the church where minors are active. You need to be mindful of these things. And the most important thing is to just have a plan. It can be different from other churches. That's fine, but just have a plan.
And so that might include, sorry, go ahead, Joel.
I was going to say, do you think pastors had a plan or should have had a plan when smartphones were first introduced, where you could take a video on them? I might have not even been smartphones, but even like the old like flip phones, they had cameras on them.
Yeah.
Right?
Flip phones, yeah. I mean, I was a teenager when flip phones were all the rage. The iPhone came out when I was in high school. And I don't think there was as much concern about like flip phones and even like the earliest smartphones, because the things you could do with them were kind of obvious, like that you had a phone out in front of you and you were recording something or taking a picture of something. Like it was kind of obvious what you were doing, but the quality of the recording or the quality of the photo wasn't all that great. That said, churches can and should have photography policies in place about how they approach people taking photos or videos on church property. Some churches, that's a big part of their church culture. They love taking pictures together with friends or taking pictures of what's going on. People can generally just kind of do that on their own. That's fine. Some churches are much more restrictive, where only certain individuals or certain volunteers are allowed to do that. And they usually get consent from the people that they're taking photos or video of. That's fine too. Again, the most important thing is to have a policy and to make sure the people who need to know that policy know it well. That's the most important thing. But this should have been, and this should have been something that your church would hopefully have had for some time. I mean, the thing about policies is that you set them, and then you tend to kind of forget about them until you need them. But at least you have them on hand when you need them. It's when you needed something on hand and you don't have a policy, that's when things can go really bad.
So there could be a scenario that pastors have already dealt with, where maybe they have like some Baptist or non-denominational churches have like, or Anglican churches for that matter, have like a kids time, or Presbyterian churches have it too for some reason, of like a children's sermon during the service, right? And if you're live streaming, then sometimes that live stream will be cut during that time, just so that you don't risk having kids, minors on camera, because there's just good reason not to have minors on camera. Part of it is for predators. Part of it is just like a sense of data privacy, that it's not appropriate for people to have their image on the internet without their permission given.
Well, and there's also too another angle that's often overlooked in this, is that if you are a foster parent, you have even greater duties in making sure that the children that you're in care over do not appear in media like that. In my church, we have a ton of foster parents in my church. My wife works in the foster care system, and for those children, their faces showing up on the internet is an immediate no-no. Like and it gets the parents in major trouble, and churches can inadvertently trigger that if they're careless about that. Which is why it's just easier to say. And I said when I was in charge of this at my church, we just don't show children on our stuff. Like it's just the easiest, simplest line for us to draw. And parents can do whatever they want, but as a church, this is just something we're not going to cross.
Yeah, it's interesting, as you go into a stadium for a sports game, there's often that sign as you enter: this venue is a recorded event. Your picture might be online. That's a stadium with adults. Now there might be kids there, and so that just happens, and AI technology is getting better at sifting that out for televised games. But it's just, that's different than a church. Maybe mega churches have a sign like that.
And it's also private property. Like as a stadium, they can do whatever they want on that front. And churches, as private property, can do whatever they want on that as well. So churches should prioritize keeping their people safe, even if it's a little bit inconvenient, because all it takes is for one highly motivated bad actor to be successful to leave a lifetime of grief and pain in the lives of an individual or community. They just need to succeed once.
Yeah, I think generally, like what you've been saying earlier about like having a policy and everything like that, totally agree with, especially as it applies to phones today. I think, like you say, people can record on their phones today or any device, and you should have some policy for that. And, you know, we've been talking about live streaming, like kids sections during church, and like I think all of this is right. I think with glasses, we are already moving towards more normalization, right? If you remember back to 2013 when Google Glass came out, there was this big reaction. There was a term, glass hole. I'm just saying it's two different words, so it's clear that I'm saying
long pause in between. Good work, Joel.
So people would say that because it was like, oh my gosh, this is so creepy, this is so rude, blah blah. But there is no like meta whole paradigm happening right now, right? It's very much like, oh, it's actually been a hit product for them. I just saw an article the other day where the stock is dropping, and I'm like, oh, does this mean they're coming out with a new version soon? Because they're like,
they did announce that. They did announce that. Oh gosh, it's not with Ray-Ban. It's Oakley. They're working on a version with Oakley.
Interesting.
That will be. Which now they're taking a slice out of GoPro. Like a move like that, they got their eyes set on GoPro, and that will be a big fight.
Yeah, and I think, you know, people now are more like, oh, this is actually kind of normal. We kind of expect it. Society is a little bit more accepting of it. And then even like recently, Apple came out with their whole redesign, whereas like all the tiles are transparent and glass. And then I have developers who are testing it, and they're like, oh, translucent is too translucent, and then opaque, there's like an opaque mode. It's too opaque and it looks ugly. So it feels like everyone's like still skating towards this future of like the glass world. Which is interesting.
I will put my stake in the ground now. I think Apple will have a pair of smart glasses in the next 2 years. Now that they've got the OS for it, like a visual OS for it, I think they will have a pair of smart glasses within the next 2 years, especially given the Vision Pro's relative failure. It will be so easier for them to move into the hardware space of glasses than it would be for them to do another iteration of a Vision Pro. And especially if they pay attention to what Meta is doing and like recognize how big these are for Meta, it would be such an easy move for them to make. I think it'll happen within the next 2 years.
But will it be good? That's the question.
That's the question. Will it be good?
Can Apple do great products anymore? I don't know.
I am very skeptical. As a diehard Apple fan, I have never been so not confident in Apple to do anything right.
I think that sentiment is across the board. I was just saying earlier, Gary Tan, I follow him on X. He's a Y Combinator CEO. He posted like, hey, I take a lot of notes on Apple Notes. But seeing as they're not going to deliver innovative software anytime soon in the next 24 months, who's doing AI note software? And I was like, oh my gosh, does everyone have this perspective that they've like lost the plot? And I know it's a little bit of a tangent from glasses, but obviously there's a connection there.
No, there is a connection because, the idea that more and more you'll interface with some operating system when you log onto your phone or your computer. You are interacting with an operating system. Windows is an operating system. You know, Mac OS is a Macintosh operating system, all this kind of stuff. I'm just dumbing it down for people like me. And so when you move like Apple has in the last month toward a transparent operating system, it naturally leads you to believe that, oh, this will suit being displayed on an actual pair of glasses. So it's just to slow down the the argument there. And yeah, so when you're going to church, you're going to be sitting next to someone who's maybe wearing a pair of these glasses. And when the pastor says, open your Bibles, they will talk to their glasses, or they'll pull it up on their phone, or they'll, like, there's possibilities for it to be a new, honestly, maybe glasses would be less distracting than a phone because of just some of the visual and physical distractions that a phone has. There's a lot of questions, and I don't know what the future is. And it's interesting when you think about the interaction that you might have as a pastor with someone wearing smart glasses. Hey, we just don't want you to go to our kids area, because that's one of the policy proposals you suggested, is like, that's going to be the policy. Or it's just going to be, you can't wear smart glasses here, sorry, unless you're visually impaired. Because that is an element that we haven't even talked about, is that it is beneficial for people with visual impairments. Sometimes it helps assist in the same way that headphones like have, because the technology is moving in this direction so fast. So there's a lot of these like smaller caveats that people will need to figure out at their context what makes sense.
Right. And I tried to strike a really firm balance in that piece between recognizing that the features of at least Meta's glasses, can't really speak for other glasses that haven't been made or enter the market yet, but the same features that are proving so incredibly life-changing for people with visual disabilities. That's actually been one of the reasons why these glasses have been successful, is because individuals with visual disabilities are able to get accessibility benefits at a really reasonable price point. So much so that a lot of American groups that work with individuals with visual disabilities are very openly recommending them and promoting them. And that's a big deal. Like that's actually a pretty big game changer for Meta.
Totally.
But the same feature that lets that be life-changing to one group of people is the very same thing that a predator would use to take a picture of a child in a restroom. It just is. And we have to strike a balance between not overreacting and going nuclear and saying none of these on, church property in any way, shape, or form, even if you're, if they're the only pair of glasses you have, sorry, you're out of luck. And keeping our kids safe. There has to be some middle ground where you're doing what you can to keep your kids safe. And for those that are now able to more readily participate in church life because of what these glasses can do for them, welcoming them in and celebrating that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it's very well stated. Because I think I was just thinking, like, look, if there is a bad actor out there, and let's just say someone came out with a policy of like, okay, I'm banning smart glasses. There's other, I don't know, maybe people aren't aware. There's like technology like spy pens and stuff like that you can actually buy, and it's like those people will find a way to kind of pervert. But if you have a policy on restricted areas, at least you've come out clearly and said, like, regardless on what type of wearable it is or smart device it is, this is a policy. I think it's a very clear stake in the ground that there should be, I don't think any blowback really on having a good policy like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and all of the reactions to this piece were very positive, and people are also starting to think about this too. My youngest brother is a band director in a middle school, and he read the piece and he was like, "Oh, dude, don't even get me started on like smart glasses and like tests in school, like just the massive can of worms." And then one insightful comment was like, what about a juror? Like someone gets called up for jury duty here in the States and the only pair of glasses they have are a pair of smart glasses, like, and the judge forbids, recording in the courtroom. Like, is that juror like disqualified? Like how does that work? Like there's so many other scenarios that have not been thought through yet.
Yeah. Well, and especially when I think of, because I was back and forth, because one of the things that your piece touches on in a very delicate way is this idea of there being bad actors, there being predators, and what they might do. And I don't like to normalize that narrative too much, because it is so, it's such a low probability for that to happen.
Sure.
In many ways. And I think there has been a narrative that the secular culture has used about there being so many bad things that happen in Christian churches and in the Catholic Church against minors. And it's just like a breeding ground for all this stuff. When you actually do the statistics, it's just as probable for your for a child to be sexually assaulted in a church as it is in a public school.
100%.
Like if you just do the math, like it's just that some stories gain more prominence, and some people argue that it's less likely in a church. I won't go into all that. I'm not here to make that argument, but I just always want to caution this kind of fear mongering that we're just trying to be wise with this. And one of the things that has come out in the last year is with the rise in AI and the ability to make videos with AI. Now there's new kinds of bullying tactics that are happening amongst teenagers where they take the face of a teenager and they put it on a sex video, a pornographic video, where they're basically putting someone's face and making it look with AI as if it's someone else performing a sex act. And I'm just really scared about those sorts of situations happening to people I love and people in my church, that we do really need to take this data privacy seriously. And like, I remember what it was like to be a teenager. I remember the kinds of jokes that were made, the kind of bullying that happened. Like, there are kind of like this idea of some scary bad actor that I've never met, but I don't really have a tangible idea of what that looks like, other than I do know people who have stories of terrible things that have happened to them. And this kind of stuff does happen. We shouldn't just like close our ears. But there's also just like individuals who will use opportunities to make fun, make jokes, bully, and things like that. And the crowd effect is real. And sometimes all it takes is a video that's embarrassing to turn it into something like at a youth group event or something like that. Like, this is where, like, going back to Joel's point is like, wait, do you even have a policy against phones? Or, like, there's just basic tech wisdom that I think churches have just kind of like fallen behind. And it's just like maybe make some clear statements on Sundays. We prefer you to bring physical Bibles, but other kinds of Bibles are okay. Recently at my church, they've started to announce what page the scripture is on in the Bible, so that if you're new to the church,
such an easy win.
They have it on the screen now too, so that you can just see it on the screen, like turn to page, so that if you didn't hear what the pastor said when he's telling you where to turn, it's like, just encourage physical Bibles as opposed to phones. Anyways, those are a few thoughts. Any final words of wisdom from you, Austin, to help counsel pastors in this?
I completely agree that, like, in the general scheme of things, like, the risk of a bad actor coming to your church to sexually assault and abuse your children by taking photos or videos of them is low. So is, statistically about the same, someone coming to your church to commit a mass shooting. And in those moments, we don't want to not have a plan. We hope that those things never happen. We have good reason to think that it's not normal. This isn't something we show up every Sunday on guard for. But we prepare for these things because we do live in a fallen world, and these things do happen. And if, Lord forbid, it happens to our churches, we want to be prepared and know what to do so that we can keep our people safe. You don't have these plans in place because you expect it to happen, even once, much less frequently. You have them in place so that when they do happen, you're already doing what you can to keep your people safe from the wolves.
Yeah, actually, I'll add on to that, because I'm working at a company that's really focused on security, right? I think we talked in a previous episode about network security and all that type of stuff, and security in the digital space. Actually, my role is to take that security framework and apply it to the physical world. So it's like, hey, we have like security cameras, and now with the security cameras, can you run like an AI agent that is like scanning and like detecting a threat level of someone? I mean, obviously, this technology is widely adopted at airports, right? To look at like, hey, this is a super critical infrastructure place that can be attacked, whatever. So like, let's track this individual. Let's like have a threat score on him. Like, that stuff is out there. People are working on it. So it's like, can we bring that to churches, where churches can actually have like counter surveillance and say like, hey, actually we are identifying this person with glasses who's like also doing something a little bit sketchy in the way they're like pacing down the hall multiple times and stuff like that. And then, hey, now alert an elder and stuff like that. So there is a side of me who's like, hey, how can we actually use technology to improve and arm the, not to put it in this paradigm, but good guys, right? Which is always red blue teaming. It's kind of like the security framework, but I digress. It's a cool,
no,
it's a cool app. Yeah.
With some of these churches that are larger and they're having over 1,000 people on a Sunday, they have a security team.
Yes, my church does. We're not over 1,000, but we have such a big building that we have to have a big team just to have eyes everywhere, just because there's so many pockets and corners for things to happen.
I will maybe give you guys some free technology then for your security team. Test it out.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Okay, well, this has been interesting. Like some episodes, there's always lingering questions, but thank you, Austin, for doing your research on this and sharing some insight to the world, because it's one of those times where there's going to be some guy who says 2 years from now, nobody's ever told Christians about smart glasses. Like Christians are so behind on smart glasses. It's like, well, maybe not. Maybe you're just not listening, because there are some Christians that are actually talking. Literally just today, I saw a video that was titled "The Question No One Is Asking," and it was literally a question that we asked on this podcast 4 months ago.
So share this podcast with those people.
I'm just kind of like, I know that it was used in order to go viral on Shorts or TikTok, but it's like, people are asking these questions and we are trying to stay ahead of some of the trends. And that's what this podcast is about. If you want to support us in doing this, we love doing this podcast. We think it's an important work of God that we are doing. We do not treat it as just a side hobby for giggles. We do it for the glory of God. We do it to serve the church. And if you want to support us in spending more time on this and researching and writing and thinking and talking with experts, then please support us on Patreon. You can do that, patreon.com/whatwould-Jesus, or not What Would Jesus Tech, just WWJT. If you just Google search it or go to our website, whatwould-Jesus-tech.com, you will get linked there. And I thought that the most popular tier would be the middle tier. The lowest tier, which is only $1 a month, you just get all the access to all the free episodes. So maybe that would be the most popular. But people just, when they sign up for like the $14 a month tier, which gives you a couple free books every year as well. So anyways, thanks for listening. Thanks for those who support us. Use tech, find rest, and glorify God. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.